We gonna rock on through Electric Avenue. Rest in peace, Mac Miller. Okay, we gotta cut out that shit too.
No, we can't. Hey everybody, I'm Trevor.
I'm Vincent.
And we are the Anthony and Todd Show. And today we are presenting to you our new playlist segment, the top 10 Mac Miller songs.
Songs.
Mac Miller was an American rapper from Pittsburgh who recently died, sadly, from a drug overdose. Rest in peace. Actually, out of all the deaths this year, there were a lot of rapper deaths this year.
Yeah.
Out of all the deaths this year, this one I think hit the hardest for, well, I know for me personally, because I respected him as an artist, and I think that Mac Miller still had like a lot of room to grow.
Mac was also in a pinnacle of his career where he's going after on this changing point, because after swimming we were thinking we're going to get this new route, and I was really excited to see where he was going to take it, because he seemed like he was a new phase of his career where he was going to be more funky or soulful or jazz-like, but also be mature. And whether or not it was cheesy, which in my opinion it was, I still enjoyed swimming as a project. I had a lot of fun with it.
Yeah.
And it's a shame we're never going to see what the evolution of that was, because I thought it was going to be something big, and I think later down the line he was going to make it into something that was a must listen. And it's, again, it hurt me a lot because we're just never going to get that, and it felt like his career was really cut short. It's just too short. But yeah, Mac was a very innovative artist, whether you want to admit it or not, because he came up in the internet era. He was one of the first artists to come up in this era and thrive through this era, coming up with the likes of Childish Gambino and Odd Future, especially, just making this internet era of easy, accessible music for young people. And I think for a while, all those artists in the scene, like Gambino, like Odd Future members, especially Tyler, were viewed as very childish. And as time went on, they kind of grew out of it. Gambino, especially, the best example. Further down the line, Tyler and Frank and Earl all kind of grew out of the kiddish shell. And Mac, especially kind of in the beginning, making frat boy rap, and later down the line making more introspective, more emotional works like The Divine Feminine, like Good AM, like Swimming. He's really evolved on this as an artist in only like his around 8-year career. He managed to have some diversity in song and mature as an artist, and it was a cool evolution to see him go from frat boy high schooler to introspective, cheesy, hopeless romantic. And I thought that was a cool adjustment. So over the course of his career, he has had a bunch of different styles, ranging from at one time horrorcore to frat boy rap to jazz to funkier tracks, just basically all over the place when it comes to pop, rap, and jazz. I wanted to tribute him by going over the 10 best songs that he has done. In our opinion, these are the 10 quintessential Mac Miller tracks. But one thing I want to get into before we actually start the honorable mentions is, so today's playlist is called ALM. I'm going to have it down in the description. There's going to be a YouTube version, and there's going to be a Spotify version. The album art for the Spotify version is actually a friend of mine drove all the way from Kentucky to Pittsburgh to go to the candlelight vigil in Blue Slide Park. And I told him to light a candle for Mac for me, because I wasn't going to drive all the way to Pittsburgh for the candlelight vigil. And he said, okay. And then he later responded with, I couldn't find a candle, but I hit a flat blunt for you.
So they ran out of candles.
So that's the album art. That's the context behind the album art if you're looking on Spotify. So without any further ado, we're going to get into the honorable mentions of the 10 best Mac Miller songs. So the first one we want to mention is Mac Miller's not quintessentially involved in this one. He only really has background vocals, but I think in terms of kind of storytelling and how it did relate to Mac Miller's death is kind of a grim tale, and it's kind of a grim warning in itself, and it's supposed to be. Drugs by Absol off of his 2016 album Do What Thou Wilt. Mac Miller provides some excellent background vocals that combine with Absol's nasaliness, catchy hip-hop track. I think that just the nasaliness in both of them just works so well together. I think that's just a great combination. The second honorable mention is What's the Use from Mac Miller's recent album Swimming, which features background vocals from Thundercat, Damn Funk, Sid, Snoop Dogg. But you can't have any better collaborators in the background of a funk track, even if Mac is kind of out of place on it. But like the collaborators help him make him shine, especially the bass work by Thundercat. I think is just great. Okay, featuring Tyler Creator, which is a bonus track of watching movies with the sound off, is one of the most annoying tracks I've ever heard, but it is amazing. It's this very like goofy, playful, just irritatingness that Tyler was in at the time, and having Mac, who also is someone that the critics really didn't understand because he was so cheesy, he was so out there, and having those two basically bring to the forefront just the awkward qualities of both of them and just being really harsh about it, I thought was so fun with the hook where Tyler's raspy voice says, "Get a Mac, Mac, Mac," I think is fun because it is able to just be so kind of irritating that it comes full 360 because they're putting so much passion behind it that you're able to have fun with it, even though its main point seems to be kind of really reckless and annoying. The track Guild by Earl Sweatshirt off his 2013 album Duros is on here. I love Mac's opening verse where he references everything from like the Adjustment Bureau to just like, I don't know, everything in his lowered pitch voice going into Earl's very edgy lower pitch voice that makes him seem like he's 8 feet tall when in reality he's like 5'2". I think is really funny. It's a nice combination of pitch down vocals and just like fun lines. The edginess from Earl contrasted with the playfulness of Mac, I think just is a good combination. Also, Learn How to Watch by Carnage with Mac and Made in Tokyo, I think is fun. I think Mac's verse on here where he says, been the same motherfucker, make a motherfucking faint like Suge Knight. I think it's just one of the funniest lines that has come out of this year. It just like his flow, how it is able to bounce back and forth over this very like, I don't know, accordion like beat. I think it's fun with the super nasally Made in Tokyo going, learn how to watch, learn how to watch. It's just a very just fun song. It's nothing more than these 2-minute catchy single that doesn't overstay its welcome. One actual verse from Mac and the hook and closer from Made in Tokyo I think is great. And then finally, We featuring CeeLo Green from The Divine Feminine. I think this song overall may go on to a bit too long for what it is, but I think the combination of CeeLo kind of being this like vocal ambience that kind of draws you into Mac's verse and Mac's kind of nonchalantness actually works on this track because it provides a certain atmosphere. I think his kind of spaced outness helps him out on this track and helps him just kind of flow into the void that is CeeLo Green, and then CeeLo Green's very bright and energetic performance closes everything off. I think this collaboration shouldn't work in any dimension, but on this I think it works really, really well.
CeeLo's incredible.
CeeLo's incredible. Now he's wearing a gold suit, and I hope he doesn't suffocate because it's hot out there. Okay, you ready for the actual list?
I am.
Number
10. Number 10 is Max, actually one of Mac's latest songs, Self-Care from Swimming from earlier this year. This song is, I mean, I think at the time it came off kind of as cheesy. And I think it came off kind of as just this really corny track that he made, as did the rest of the album. A lot of people just really harshed it for being like really corny. But also I think in the midst of his death, it makes a lot more sense. Swimming makes a lot more sense now after he has passed. And this track, I think in particular, shows that like Mac wasn't trying to give up. He wasn't ready to go. He was trying to just take care of himself and try to focus on himself and be a better person and do what he needed to do to help his own body and mind and soul recover from all the trauma that he had been suffering through. I just think that it's beautiful in that way to see it in that light now, because at the time it is one of the better tracks off of Swimming, one of the best tracks off of Swimming, but now I think it holds so much more weight in the midst of everything that had been happening.
Yeah, because it shows like the improvement and how he's willing to improve. But
right
now, after his death, it makes more sense in the context of how he was trying to, basically, how he's trying to improve and not have an ill-fated death.
Right.
Number
9.
I'm Not Real featuring Earl Sweatshirt off of Watching Movies with the Sound Off. I don't know. I really enjoy this track. I think this track's hella fun. It basically provides the same energy that Gil did, but I think on this one, Mac's able to shine a lot more, and there isn't a super edgy verse from Earl. There's only a hook. So I think with this, you get the grandness of the atmosphere that is produced by Earl Sweatshirt. You get this very giant wall of sound, basically, where Mac is able to just kind of let his thoughts run and basically describe a lot of the struggle he was going through at the time, but then you get Earl with this harsh hook that kind of grounds it a bit, where the point is Earl doesn't really have too much to say, so he can't really go off this edgy tangent that, like, contrasts from Mac, but it's enough to keep him grounded in the moment, which I think is really cool. And again, you get this very large space, and it just, Mac works well in these larger than life spaces, I think. And
Yeah.
I think that's one of the things that complements them the best, and I think that's a lot of an element that a lot of these tracks have, is that they feel larger than life. They feel larger. They feel like these giant, like, I don't know, choir rooms that, or
Yeah,
basically.
and I think also playing off that, he works on large concepts.
Yeah.
The whole concept of the divine feminine, all about like bringing up women, I think is a huge concept that he was working with, and I think the whole self-care aspect of swimming was a large concept. It's not like a storytelling album. It's not really like a this is my personal life album. It always comes off as like, here's a bigger concept that I'm going to tackle. I think he works well with that as well.
Yeah. Number
Eight. I forgot where we were. Another one off of Swimming, Come Back to Earth. Playing, actually ironic, talking about Earl keeping Mac grounded, because this whole track is about Mac trying to stay grounded and trying to come back down to earth. I think that his his verses on here, just like they were in Self Care, I think now has this beautiful kind of quality. He's just trying to keep himself grounded, especially after his breakup with Ariana Grande, and how I think that kind of tore him up quite a bit, and he was trying to, stay grounded and just keep his feet firmly planted on the ground and try to move forward with life. Not to mention it's got a pretty catchy verse too.
Yeah, how the fact that it is so spaced out, I think, what complements it, and it feels like you're kind of orbiting the sun or something like that, where the sun is just rising.
Yeah.
It's
You're with Mac, like floating out in space,
and there's this beautiful like ray of sunshine behind you as the earth, or as the sun just kind of comes out of view of this planet or something that is moving. I think it's beautiful. I think this is just a well crafted atmosphere that gets you into the form of the album, and I think it's great. Number
777.
Piñata, which is a track off of Freddie Gibbs and Madlib's album Piñata, which features Sulaiman, Casey Veggies, Domo Genesis, Mac Miller, G-Wiz, and Meechy Darko of Flatbush Zombies fame is also on here. Also, the 97 LA Lakers are also on here. This is just a great posse cut that closes out Piñata, and there's nothing really much more than I need to say than that. This was just a very random assortment of the artists from time, because you got Freddie on there, but you also got Meechy Darko, and then Odd Future members, Domo Genesis, and Earl Sweatshirt, and Casey Veggies is associated with them. So it's
he started it. It's this is a crazy. Just a crazy assortment of hey man, you want to be on my track? Hey, how about you?
And not only over those artists on their own, but over a Madlib beat
with Freddie Gibbs, who has no association to any of them.
Yeah, it's just such a strange combination of that. And Mac has the actual last verse on the track, and I think that's what makes it special, is that he actually closes out this album before it gets into 4 minutes of skits. This album's a 4-minute track and 8 minutes of skits. But I think it's cool that he was actually at the closing verse of Piñata. I just think that's a really cool moment.
Yeah.
And I think he meshes well with everyone. I think everyone on this track extremely meshes well. It's just a random assortment of artists. Great posse cut. One of the most interesting posse cuts of all time, for sure, because it's just complete randomness, but so many elements. They don't make sense in a bubble of things, but under looking at why they're there, they make sense. They're similar qualities. Freddie Gibbs is harsh, but he's also like kind of like Odd Future harsh. So that makes sense why like Domo and like Earl are there. But like Meechy Darko shares that same like quality, and so does like Max, kind of like affiliate with that too. So it's like everything bubbles up into a nice unit, which I think is cool.
Yeah.
And it's just such a hype moment from the closer of Pinata. So I think it's great. Moving on to number six.
This is probably one of Mac's most iconic tracks, and definitely the earliest track on this list. Donald Trump from the mixtape Best Day Ever from 2011, back when Mac was first getting his feet into the waters of this rap. This is probably his breakout. I would call this his breakout single for sure. A favorite song of frats everywhere with one of the like catchiest beats.
With the vocal sample, that na 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 na, just on loop the entire time. This very like playful, cartoony beat.
I mean, it's extremely cartoony, and it sets Mac up, I think, for that kind of cartoonish phase in his life, that like frat boy kind of rap era of his life and of his career, which we always like kind of make fun of, but it also like it wasn't bad.
Yeah,
also
there was
wasn't
good
bad
moments out of it.
for sure.
Comparing him to someone like Ash or Roth, I think Mac's frat boy phase was actually way superior.
Oh yeah,
because
for
he
sure.
had more than like one hit under that belt, and also the people he's working with were way more competent than the people Ash or Roth was working with. So like,
but basically, Donald Trump is his breakout single. It's incredibly playful and incredibly fun. And it still like remains a favorite even before. This is the same artist that's making music like The Divine Feminine, that's making music like Good AM, making music like Swimming, and before all of that, he was out here rapping about Donald Trump chugging beers and things.
Yeah, imagining you're on your Donald Trump shit and trying to conquer the world.
Yeah.
This is before Donald Trump was even thinking about running for president the second time. So it hasn't aged well thematically, but I think it is kind of aged well, at least popular-wise, if that makes sense. That just kind of that sound and style, the catchiness of it, I think has aged pretty well. I just think the only thing that hasn't aged well about it is just the fact that Donald Trump's president, and that's just like a taboo topic. But everything else about this track, and the fact that Donald Trump tried to sue him for this, I think it's the funniest thing in the world.
It's super funny. You can't do anything about it. Number five.
Weekend. Not The Weekend. Weekend featuring Miguel.
Featuring The
Weekend. Light, which is just Miguel. Off of Good AM. This track is just Mac ode to the weekend. His ode for he's not good now, but once the weekend comes around,
I love Starboy.
It's his ode for the weekend and how he's not good now, but when the weekend comes around, he's his true self and he's able to let loose and have fun, for better or for worse. Because sometimes it's not good to just have all this energy let out of you and party too much, but sometimes it is good. You need to let loose and you need to, I don't know, take a break from everything and go nuts. And I think Miguel, with this very like soulful balance, actually, since he's a little bit more spacier in this track, it actually makes Max seem more awake. And that's why Good AM was so special, is because it was one of the first projects where like people were taking him serious because he was actually more awake on it. He wasn't just asleep or spaced out or just a frat boy. There's moments like this where you see kind of this persona to him, where you see depth. Yeah. I think this is one of the moments where he does, because he shows struggle. He's poppy, it's catchy, and he seems like a person. He seems three-dimensional in this track, even though it is super poppy, it's super catchy. He does have dynamics to his character.
All right, number four. Going back right to that frat boy phase, bring me back to my freshman year of high school with Blue Slide Park's Party on Fifth Ave, the lead single off of that. I mean, I think that was an iconic track. Everybody I knew was blasting this out of their cars, and it was a hype track. Yeah. He took that classic trombone, that's used everywhere, and put it to good use finally. Yeah. The music video was so funny. Everybody's riding around on these Razor scooters, going to a party, like... Just all sorts of like crazy stuff. It just reminded you of like that weekend, like you said, like the weekend you just let loose and have fun, and that's exactly like what Mac was doing out here. I'm not sure this ever got as popular as Donald Trump, but to me, I prefer the track. I think the lyrics are incredibly clever and fun and catchy. He's bouncing all over the walls. Like I used to feel like guilty for listening to this because I liked it so much.
But like, I think in all honesty, what makes this so great is the acceptance of having fun.
Yeah.
And how it isn't afraid to have fun, and it's willing to admit that it's stupid, but with some of its lines, how he talks about twin sisters drinking so much so they both fall down.
Yeah.
I think like it is able to have fun, and I think the beat alone sets that up, that it is kind of this cheesy frat boy rock, but it's willing to admit that, and it's willing to have fun with it, and he puts so much character and charisma behind that.
Oh yeah, even in his not his Mad Libs, even in his ad libs at the beginning, he was like, yo, yo, yo.
It's just trying to be the most fun and having the most fun out of it, and I think that's what makes it so great.
Yeah.
Number
3.
We got God is fair, sexy, nasty.
God is fair, sexy, nasty.
featuring Kendrick Lamar. This is the closer to the Divine Feminine, his 2016 record, and I think this is the track where he's able to just explore that concept fully and what it is. And basically, he's just treating God like a woman and going over aspects of sex and sexuality and lust. And I think with Kendrick and Lamar on just background vocals alone, you don't even need a verse for him. His harmonies alone is just the thing you need him for. And I think Mac isn't super fine-tuned vocals, neither is Kendrick, but Kendrick has his harmonies down and how he lays himself out on the track, and is what makes his vocals so special.
It makes it very spacey.
And combining that with Mac, I think, is just a brilliant idea. You don't even need a full verse from him. You just need his vocals, and having him alone on that. Not even like, I don't think you even needed like a Kendrick verse on it. I think you just needed him there because he complements Mac and his vocals so much with his harmonies, and I think that's what makes it so special. Especially when talking about God and love, I think Kendrick Lamar is a good person to have that on your record about. Because I think any subjects about God or love, Kendrick's able to just immediately dedicate himself to and compliment. I don't know. I think these two mash up perfectly. It is the most jazzy and most fun and most trippy on Divine Feminine, and it's the best cut, in my personal opinion, off of that great closer. I love the outro where Mac's grandmother is talking about how she met his grandfather and fell in love, and it's just a heartbreaking, a little heart-touching story. It's really nice closer to the album. And it gives it a feeling of an ending, a nice warm ending to go out on.
I think so.
Number
two. Dang, from the Divine Feminine. This track features Anderson .Paak.
I thought it was Anderson .Paak.
It's Anderson .Paak.
Yeah.
I think that this is one of his most catchy songs off of here, and definitely one of the most funky cuts off of the Divine Feminine. It made radio waves everywhere, and it's so much fun with some of his vocals, some of his ad-libs on here. The chorus is extremely catchy,
and not alone the lines, I only eat pussy, other people eat food. Just and especially when he has the Genius interview about it, and he's just like, yeah, you only need a pussy, some almonds, just to get you through the day. He's just talking about eating pussy.
It's so funny, but listening to him talk about it now. Anderson .Paak on here, I think, is incredible. Brings that soulful energy from his release that year, Malibu, just carried that into this cut. I think that they work wonders together. This track was incredibly fun and funky and still gets stuck on my head to this day.
Yeah, and I think Anderson .Paak's vocals bring some of the heartbreak into what the scenario is. It's kind of this very happy-go-lucky, depressing experience, I think. Because the track is all about heartbreak and a loss, whether it be through a death or just an ex-relationship, I think is great about the track.
The way it's presented.
Yeah, but both how
opposite.
The presentation and the depth to it, I think, is what makes it great. Mm-hmm. You ready for this? Number 1. It's got to be 100 Grandkids. That's his best performance alone. Just him as an artist alone. Off of Good AM. the lead single to Good AM, and I think the reason why it's his best performance is because it's always been the performance where people have been like, I remember the reaction of this track when it came out, and people were like, wait, Mac's awake on a track? What? And it isn't like a frat boy track? What? Like, do I have to pay attention to Mac Miller now? Like, everyone was just like changing their opinion about him when this track came out because he was doing something different. He was going into a more, I guess, not contemporary, but where he was maturing. This is the point where people finally saw him not as a kid, but as a man, as a grown man. But people are finally warming up to him, and I think Good AM is his best release because it's a release where he's solid through and through, and he's able to touch everything with maturity and the hilarity it deserved. First talking about how his mother wants some grandkids, and that one day he's not ready for it now, but he'll be later in life. And then later talking about how he first made his $100,000 and how he thought he was a shit at the time, but in reality he was just a kid with a lot of money. Like, I think the introspection and the humility about this track is great. How he's able to talk about two subjects, the divide in the middle, in the beginning where it's like very playful, and because it is talking about kids, and with the choir vocals, la 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 la, and just I think going into the second half, which is more darker and heavier because he's going into himself and how he acted, I think is great. This is the best cut Mac has made, and I love it, and I think it's just a great moment in his career. I think it deserves more respect too, because I think it is his best track, and I think that's it. That's all we need to talk about for this play. List. This bit's over. But yeah, if you enjoyed us talking about Mac Miller, at the end, right on screen, I'm gonna put our review to Swimming. So if you want to listen to us talk about that, you can. Also, we host a weekly podcast every week, the best segments of the show in audio form on Apple Music and Spotify. Take us with you on the go, play us in your car, and yeah, that's it. That's all you need to do. Just play us in your car. Don't crash.
Take us with you.
Take us with you.
Burning Man.
Don't do that. No, actually, do that. Hijack Burning Man's speakers and play us instead.
And move his mouth to make it look like he's talking.
Ooh, yeah. But until next time, guys, I've been Vincent.
I've been Trevor.
And see ya, boys.
Bye, everybody.